Welcome to the Tactical Cyber Podcast, where we transform strategic cyber insights into actionable tactics for everyday implementation. Join your hosts, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Darren Mott and Risk Advisory Practice Leader at Warren Averett, Paul Perry. Together, they bring decades of experience from the front lines of cybersecurity and risk management to help business owners and individuals take the actions that will keep their business and personal digital data safe. Each episode, we delve into the world of cybersecurity, sharing real-world experiences, expert interviews, and practical tips to safeguard your digital landscape. It's time to move past cyber strategies and start working cyber tactics.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Tactical Cyber Podcast. And in this particular show, it's actually also the Cyber Guy Podcast. I am your host, retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Darren Mott, and with me, as my co-host of the Tactical Cyber Podcast, Paul Perry. Paul, we are here at the Southeast Cyber Summit in Birmingham, Alabama, and I want to thank your company, Warren Averett, for giving us a space to pop in here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a good couple days of talking the cybers, as you like to say, and just having some discussions with people about what they're doing, what's going on, and education is the most important thing. We always say that. So summits like this are extremely important, and we are happy to have you here.
And one of my goals on all these kind of conferences is to come up with a way, are we solving anything? Because that's been my biggest complaint. I've done this at the National Cyber Summit in Huntsville several times, and my biggest complaint is, what are we solving? We're all getting around talking, right? We have all these vendors. There's probably, 5 or 6 rows of vendors, maybe even 5. And it's kind of small from a perspective. This actually, didn't this start as the...
It had a different name before the Cybersecurity Summit.
And it was out at the Marriott out in west of here, right?
It was at the Marriott. One time it was at Red Mountain Theater, I think. Mm-hmm. And so I think as it's grown, I think it was like 650 people here this 2 days. So,
okay.
I mean, I think it's grown over the time, but again, it's still relatively small as it relates to cybersecurity summits.
Yeah, because I probably participated in the first one 7 years ago when I was with the FBI, and they asked me to come talk about threats or whatever that stuff was. And I remember it was all spread all over the Marriott, whatever that resort is out there in Birmingham. Not that people listening who aren't in Birmingham have no idea what I'm talking about, but there's a big Marriott resort in Birmingham that's very nice. And I think it was sponsored by NXT or Threat Advice, I think.
Threat Advice probably did it right at the beginning. That's correct. Because, I would say the cybersecurity, and you're out of the Huntsville market and in the Birmingham market, cybersecurity community is growing. There's other events that happen kind of throughout the year. I would argue this is probably one of the biggest one. But you've got a lot of groups. You've got the ISSA, you've got InfraGard. They're all the ones that help kind of put this on. The Cloud Security Alliance, I know that group's involved as well. So the community's growing, and it needs to continue to grow, because really the only way to protect ourselves is to help each other protect ourselves.
Right. And I'm talking with some of the organizers at the Cyber Summit in Huntsville to say, hey, can we have like a tactical track, right? There's always the executive track and I don't know what tracks they have here, but I saw one was like they're predicting AI and quantum computing. I'm like, wow, how long did it take to come up with that topic? Because every conference has that.
But haven't we been trying to predict that for years?
Yes, every year.
And we're still going to try to predict it, because it's not going to work. It's not going to happen.
It'll be the same presentation. And this year's keynote speaker, our friend Scott Augenbaum, who hopefully will be over here to regale us with the same 5 things he talks about all the time, or 3 things.
He likes to say there's 4, maybe 5 things. But yeah, I was just up at his keynote presentation, and one of his big things that he said kind of towards the end was change your mindset, change your behavior. What was it? One of his, I don't want to steal his thunder, but most things, and we always talk about it, are human error. It's the behavior that we do, and so we've really got to correct that. And so it takes everybody working together, and it takes the individual more than it does take the company. So
actually, I saw Cisco right behind your booth here. I wonder if they'll come over and talk about the threat broker data breach.
I think we should ask.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be all, let me talk all about that.
I'm sure that they're lawyers here. That's probably what they'll...
Yeah, well, it turned out to be actually nothing, because he never released anything.
Right.
And I did some dark web search for a law firm on that, and didn't really find much other than some screenshots that you could have got anywhere. But he may have the information on it, but it hasn't been released yet, so I'm dubious of that particular. But not that Cisco hasn't had their issues in the past. But
there's a lot of vendors here, and I'd love to get how are they solving it, right? They all have their own little thing, the way that they want to solve it, but it's like we've got to work together better.
Yes.
To solve it, and I'm not sure we're solving it.
That's our discussion every time we have this podcast. What do we solve?
We should probably change the name to it's something that can't be solved, right?
Can we solve something podcast? Yes. All right, so we'll leave that intro here, and then we'll try to get some people over here, and we'll just kind of spread these out. This may be a several episode version of the Tactical Cyber Podcast, so you may hear this part a couple of times in a row.
Right.
I'll just replay this one over and over to start it to kind of give it in, but we'll bring folks in, and hopefully they'll talk to cybers with us.
It'll be some good discussions. Looking forward to it.
All right. So our first guest, we drafted to start us off here, Justin Headley from Warren Averett. Justin, thanks for taking the time.
Darren and Paul, appreciate it. It's good to be here. I'm happy to be the guinea pig, always.
So I'm going to ask you a question that I'll probably ask everybody because it's where I stand when it comes down to conferences, and you wouldn't have known this because Paul and I had this conversation, but you couldn't hear it. What do we hope to achieve from this conference?
What do we hope to achieve? Scott had a great way to kick off, and really talking about just networking. And I think the collaboration piece is huge, and understanding where some of our problems are, but understanding that it's not a problem that we have to solve on our own. I mean, understanding different viewpoints, different perspectives of how we sort of solve this issue. That's a great way to think about it. And I mean, one thing I think for me from a takeaway from just meeting networking is just kind of understanding we're all in the same boat here. This is not something we have to take on alone, and getting different perspectives. It's great to communicate and great to network on things like that.
And I'm sure you've been to a lot of these conferences. Does the networking at the conference is fine. You can say, hey, I think we should do this, but how's the follow-up? That's always the thing that kind of kills me is there's really not a lot of follow-up. Like we talk about it, we'll all sit around and talk about it for 2 days. Point. I was saying, I'll only talk about it for 1 day because I'm only here for 1 day. But because I don't know about you, and this is a sidetrack, but in the Huntsville one, it's a 2-day like this, but at noon on the second day, they close the floor. Right. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's the always, you see somebody you haven't seen in a while, it's like, man, we should really catch up. And it's like, after that, I'll see you again at the next conference in 2 or 3 years. So, for me on some of those items, it's really just about being intentional. Definitely a sidebar here, but being intentional about when you make a connection, putting something on paper. I always say, what gets scheduled gets done. So putting pen to paper, putting it on the schedule instead of saying, I'll see you again at the next conference, right? It's what we honestly want to say, but putting pen to paper, putting something on the calendar, that's probably the way we should probably go about this approach.
So how have you seen stuff change over the years? Like, I'm sure you've been to this every year since it probably started, or at least the last several years. So how has it changed for you? Or has it? Has it changed?
That's in hearing Scott this morning talk about what we're saying is not, it hasn't really changed that much. And I think that's shocking to some. I would say from some of the practitioners doing it, we understand that we've communicated the same things for 10 years. It's just while the approach probably has changed a little bit, how you protect yourself, that has not changed a lot. I would say conferences like this, what I have seen change the most, there's a lot more vendors out there. A lot of vendors that, and I don't think this is dumping on vendor hour, but that will promise the world. A lot of them will have the silver bullet of cybersecurity, right? And we all know there's not a silver bullet with this thing. It's a multifaceted approach. Paul and I were talking earlier that we see a lot of vendors that will offer many services under one umbrella. Are you putting all your eggs in one basket? To me, that's probably the biggest piece I have seen change in this is that there's a vendor for everything now. And again, they're sometimes promising the world on some of these things. That's changed a ton.
What was it we said? We walked by one and we said, okay, can you give us a list of what you don't do?
Yeah.
Right, because that list was so massive.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're trying to be everything to everybody, and maybe that's not what we need. And we're always, Darren, talking about how do you solve things, and it's find the right person on the right seat on the bus. I don't need one vendor to help me with everything. Mm-hmm. I need to find the best in class, we sometimes say.
Right.
So that to me is what has changed, is the growth of this conference from a vendor perspective, but also the networking, and let's all help each other out. Mm-hmm. But again, at the end of the day, what are we fixing?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the company across from us. Their first thing says, "Stop cyber criminals." Come on, man.
Quite broad. That's quite broad.
That is a brave claim.
Yeah. I'm going to now just walk around and look at taglines for companies to say, walk that out for me. What do you really mean there? What is your service offering?
That's a great way to start the conversation. You should also, I don't know, I guess there's, what did you say, there's 5 rows, there's probably
54. 54. I know
54 vendors.
Yeah.
So how many of them have AI on their display?
Yes.
Take away one, we don't.
We don't.
Right? But
We don't.
I think that everybody probably has something related to AI, and it's like, okay, is that really truly AI, or is that just an algorithm?
Or it's an API to ChatGPT.
Or is it API to ChatGPT? Okay, there you go. How many AIs out here are APIs to ChatGPT?
Yeah, but I think if you go back to say, okay, what has changed in these things? We hear buzzwords year after year, and Scott talked about this. Is it big data? Is it cybersecurity? Is it social engineering? This year it's AI. I would challenge vendors to say, what do you truly mean with that? Are you just sprinkling AI in there for is it a sales pitch that marketing says, we're going to get more clicks by 25% if we're going to throw AI into our tagline? So understanding, what are you buying? What are you signing up for? Man, that's huge. It's probably something that a lot of people don't want to do the homework on. So that's a fantastic point.
I did say someone had machine learning too. AI and machine learning.
Okay.
There you go. Those almost always together.
Yeah.
I bet maybe, and we also, what do you not see? Is anybody talking about quantum computing?
Or zero trust.
I haven't seen, I don't think I've seen zero trust yet. Chase would be offended.
He would be, but but where's it? Is it really being deployed? It's. I mean, So he on our podcast he said Google does it well. And good for them. They can afford to do it well.
Right.
Sure.
Thank God I store all my stuff on Google Drive stuff. But anyway, so But for the small and mediums, which is really what this is for. No, you don't. Boeing's not here.
Right.
So.
The people with the resource issues, right? I was talking to somebody earlier that said I don't have anybody that just solely does cybersecurity for my organization. That's a big deal.
Gold Shield Cyber, we'll do that.
Gold Shield Cyber. That was a softball for you, Darren. I'm glad you hit that one.
Crank it out of the park.
But I do think that's the bigger issue with these small to medium-sized businesses is they have resources, but they need other resources because they can't afford it all. But then you truly need somebody that is. Technology is not cybersecurity, right? I've got the IT people, they handle the help desk. That's not my cybersecurity folks. I need cybersecurity folks. I got my AV people. Don't you always love when you're in a room and somebody's like, there's an AV problem, and it's like, call Paul or Justin or Darren. It's I'm a cyber guy, I'm not an AV guy. It's a completely different thing, right?
But it's all hooked up to a computer.
It's all hooked up to a computer, so you must know what's going on.
Do you feel that's almost a fundamental problem that large vendors they are so hyper-focused on it is the organization that has a 10 to 100 size IT group that there's one person that does this, there's one person that does that. That's a good point, Paul. You don't see a ton of organizations that say, outside of your MSPs, but ones that truly do security that say, we're going to stand in that line there, right? It's not we're going to partner with all your IT people. It's we do cybersecurity.
Well, and I would argue their solutions, again, not bashing them, but their solutions are focused on the network and very rarely on the people. Mm-hmm. And that's where you need to spend a lot of your time. That's why education is important. Darren, you talk about it. Scott talks about it. We talk about it all the time in any presentation we do. Is you've got to get to the people, and I think that's where. If you want to solve the cybers, take a vendor and say, okay, you're helping the company, but help the people too. Don't just sell a product that's going to take away from the people. The people have to understand it.
Yeah, right. And how many companies buy the product and it sits in a closet for 3 months because there's nobody there to configure it and get it set up correctly?
That's right. They check the box, but it's not configured. It's out there screaming with alerts. No one's paying attention to it.
Right. Even when they have alerts, nobody's paying attention to it.
Yeah, that's
I would love to ask CrowdStrike, who are you serving here? Who are you looking to sell to? You're not selling to other vendors because they're all your competitors for them. In a way, right? But who are you hoping to talk to that you can? And then maybe I can say, so tell us about last December. What happened?
Yeah. do we want to ask that question?
It's when they take the headphones off.
I've never seen anybody just walk away from a podcast.
Contact my legal team.
You're right. I wasn't there for that.
Well, thanks for stepping in and starting this conversation off.
Let's get it rolling.
I think, we'll have a lot of other discussions with folks. And again, I think your first question is important. What are we solving here? What are we trying to do?
Great point. Great point.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Justin.
Thank you, fellas.
So we're joined now by Sherry Bonds. Yes, Sherry Bonds, the president of of the Central Alabama affiliate of WESIS. And we forced her in, so she's very nervous. So don't think about that. So Sherry, thanks for taking the time and for suffering through my bullying of getting you down here. So talk about WESIS. What is it? What does it do?
Hi, thank you, Darren, for inviting me to come speak today. I appreciate it, as always. Yes, so WESIS is a global organization. We are here to recruit, retain, and advance women in cyber. So obviously there's a deficit in women in the cyber industry. So our global organization basically establishes programs all the way from mentoring, training. We have tons of supporters as far as corporate sponsors that believe in the mission, allow for job placement, job recruitment, as well as training on specialized training, like with AWS and the like, and cloud. And so locally here at the actual Central Alabama affiliate, we're a small but mighty group, so built up of individuals that are in the industry here, women that have been working in the industry for years, myself for over 20 years, have various roles in banking, accounting, finance, shifted into cybersecurity at one point or another. So managed to have different career paths to get us here, but are all in cyber in one way or another. And so we partner with various organizations here in town to do events. We try to focus on looking at opportunities for how to get the younger generation into job placement, job services, through mentoring as well as internships. So we just came off of an Elevate and Empower event we had in February at UAB with the school, the Arts and Science School, the cybersecurity area. Had a great event there. Had over 200 participants. We had 3 career tracks early into the industry. Your middle tier and then your advanced tier. Had CISOs and various representatives there speaking in those career tracks. So we partnered with Birmingham Women in Technology, which is part of Tech Birmingham here, local. So had a great event there. So we're looking to. That was an inaugural event. So we're looking to make that more of an annual event and build and grow from here. And then as more localized, we focus on about 4 or 5 events a year, meet and greets. We're going to do an event in the 29th of April at McLeod Software, just kind of a networking social gathering. So we would love to have people come and visit.
So I'm curious, as you have your conversations, what's the barrier for women into cybersecurity? Is it one thing? Is it a multitude of things? Kind of what's that top thing you're trying to solve for the women in the cybersecurity industry?
I would say a recurring theme of late, and I just came from the WESIS convention last week in Dallas, and the recurring theme that I actually was talking with some of my partners just as I came up actually was about knowing how to tap into resources, where those resources are, who provides them, what free resources are available, how to get in internships. Like, as we know, like some of those hiring managers may know they start looking for interns like in January and February, and by this late in the game, it's April, they've already pretty much vetted out who their interns are going to go to, their internships are going to go to over the summer. So they don't know the when and the why and the how, if you will. So the why is that they want they want the opportunity, right? But the how they get there, like how early they need to get involved, and then what resources are available. So a part of the networking event I want to focus on the 29th is like to write them the playbook of like, okay, like momentum is here. They have a mentoring program. WESIS has a mentoring program, but those start like in August, September time frame for you to get scholarships and get selected, and they're 9-month programs. They're not just like a couple of months, right? So they can start building on when those events, in the time frame that needs to happen. Because we have a lot of local internships, especially we have a lot of big organizations here. Regions is really big, Warren Averett, but they don't know how to tap into that.
Right.
And giving them some method to do that, I think right now is what our focus needs to be, because their barrier is really just not knowing how to take that first step. So if you think about kind of the apprehension part, like just taking that first step into understanding how to do it, and if they could get past that, they've got the skills and the resumes and the such. Part of our actual event we had a whole resume review process. Refining your resume, getting it more poignant, specific. Those are building things too. Especially they've taken a lot of courses in cyber here locally. We have great cyber programs in all of our institutions. But getting that internship, that hands-on experience is really going to set them apart, as you guys know, for the next level and to actually get a job, be able to be employed, especially if you want to start moving up.
And are you getting them in the high school range too?
We are. Oak Grove actually came and participated, and they had like 4 students that brought resumes and did a resume review. And we've actually partnered this year with Etowah County, just got a grant for their cyber program. And so we've been doing small sessions, going there and then doing online sessions with them, because the interest, now that's male and female. We don't, even though our affiliate is women in cybersecurity, we still partner with the males as well.
Right.
So, any way we can get in, we've had our vice president went to the career day at Vestavia Hills, because they wanted, someone to come talk about cyber. So however, we can make those bridges, we definitely will, and pique the interest. Yeah.
All right. Sherry, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you. So I want to thank Justin and Sherry Barnes, if I can say it correctly this time, for joining Paul and I on the Tactical Cyber Podcast at the Southeast Cyber Summit in Birmingham last week. Finally getting around to putting these podcasts together. We had a couple different guests that stopped in and had some chats, so we'll spread this out over the course of a couple episodes. So this is the first one. We'll have another one next week, and then we'll have a third one with our other two folks that stopped in over the course of those 2 podcasts. I'm also going to duplicate this podcast onto the Cyber Guy podcast. So if you are not a listener of the Cyber Guy podcast, you can go check me out there. And if you're listening to this on the Cyber Guy podcast, please go check out the Tactical Cyber podcast. With that, enjoy the rest of your week. Know that knowledge is protection. If you can understand the threats targeting you, you can assess your risk. Proceed wisely. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Tactical Cyber Podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of their respective employers. If you have thoughts, comments, or suggestions on the Tactical Cyber Podcast, email Darren at thecyberguy.com. You can also follow Darren and Paul on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Darren Mott or linkedin.com/in/Paul M. Perry CPA. Paul Perry is a member of Warren Averett CPAs and Advisors, where he leads the firm's risk advisory and assurance services team, a group dedicated to optimizing businesses' financial, operational, and technology controls so that organizations can make strategic choices for sustained growth. Learn more at warrenaverett.com. Stay safe, stay secure, and we'll see you next time.